Welcome back, student, for the second part of software testing. I am Dr. Alifia Jagirdar, Assistant Professor of Abida and Namdar Senior College. Do like and subscribe to the channel. Now we are going to study what are the testing methodologies and types. There are different methodologies as we saw in system testing, unit testing, what testing methodologies we could use. Here we are going to learn in more of details. First is black box, second white box, third incremental, and fourth is thread. What is a black box testing? Here you do not have knowledge of internal design or code. The tests are based on requirements and functionalities. White box testing, knowledge of internal program design and code is required. Test is based on coverage of code statements, branches, paths and conditions. White box testing is normally done by the developers and black box testing is normally done by the clients. Black box testing techniques are incorrect or missing functions, interface errors, there are errors in data structures or external database access, performance errors, and initialization and termination errors. Black box functional testing, it is based on requirements and functionality. It is not based on knowledge of internal design or code. It covers all the combined parts of system and tests are data driven. White box is also called as structural testing, which is based on knowledge of internal logic or application code. It covers all the statement, branches, paths and condition, and it is basically logic driven test. Functional testing, black box testing type testing is geared to functional requirements of any application. It is done by the testers. System testing, black box type testing, this is based on overall requirement specification and covering all the parts of the system. End-to-end testing, it is similar to your system testing, but it involves testing of complete application environment and situation that mimics real world use. For example, end-to-end testing, your end-to-end environment is created into your company and then your application is tested. Sanity testing, initial effort is to determine if your new software version is performing well enough and it is accepted with for your major testing efforts. Okay, so that is called as sanity testing. Regression testing, retesting after fixes or modification of the software or its environment. Acceptance testing, final testing is based on the specification of the end user or customer. Load testing, testing an application under heavy loads, for example testing of website under a range of loads to determine when the system response degraded or failed. Like load testing, you make or you create a traffic and still your system gives you the same result, so that is called as load testing. Stress testing, here it is done unusually with heavy loads, heavy repetition of certain actions, inputs, large numerical values, complex queries. So it is like term often is used interchangeable with load and performance testing. So stress testing is performance testing. Performance testing, this is how well an application complies to your performance requirements. Install and uninstall testing, testing of full and partial or upgrade and install and uninstall process, how fast is your installation and uninstallation. Recovery testing, if your system crashes then how fast your system recovers from the failures, that is called as recovery testing. Compatible testing, this is how well your software performs in a particular hardware software environments, how compatible it is. Exploratory testing or ad hoc testing, here informal software test that is not based on any test plans or cases. So testers will be learning the software in totality as they test it, that is called as explore. You explore the software as you keep on testing. Comparison testing, where you compare your strength and weakness with the competing products. Okay, so that is comparison testing. This is one of the important testing. Alpha and beta testing, alpha testing is done when the development is near to your completion. Okay, certain minor changes into design can be still incorporated into your alpha testing. Next is beta testing. This is done when your development and testing is completed and your final bugs and problems need to be found out before the release. That is called as beta testing. Mutation testing, you determine if your set of test data or test cases is useful by introducing various bugs. You keep on introducing to the bugs and then retesting with your original test case to determine if the bugs are detected or not. So you are going to create the bugs and identify whether it is still doing the correct testing or not. Let's see what is white box testing. There are different techniques. As we say white box testing, you know what is the code. So all independent paths within the modules have been exercised at least once. Then that is basically on logical decisions or true or false sides. You will execute all the loops at the boundaries within their operational bounds. You will exercise internal data structure to ensure their validity. Next is loop testing. This technique focuses on validity of loop constructs, whether your loop is working correctly or not. First is simple loop, nested loop, concatenated loop, and unstructured loops. Incremental testing, a disciplined method of testing the interface between unit testing performs as well as between the system components. It will involve unit testing program module or component one by one, and it will test each result and combination. There are two types of incremental, one is top down and the other is bottom up. In top down, you will test the top of the module hierarchy and work down to the bottom, and the modules are added in descending hierarchical. Bottom up is testing from the bottom of the hierarchy and works up to the top, and the modules are in ascending hierarchical order. So if you see the structure, these are the testing levels and technique. In unit testing, white box testing is done. In integration, white box is done, incremental is done, and thread is done. In system, black box is done. In acceptance, black box is done. Gray box technique is to test the application where you have limited knowledge of internal working of an application. And in software testing, the phrase "the more you know" is the better carries of lot of weight while testing an application. Okay, these are the advantages. It offers combined benefits of black and white box testing. Then gray box testers don't rely on source code because they don't need source code. Instead, they rely on interface definition and functional specification. Based on limited information available, that is, gray box tester can design excellent test scenarios, especially around communication protocols and data type handling. Test is done from the point of view of the user and not the designer. Now, what are the disadvantages? Since the access to the source code is not available, ability to go over the code and test coverage is limited because you don't know only the source code. Test case can be redundant if the software designer has already run the test. Testing every possible input stream is unrealistic because it would take an unreasonable amount of time. Therefore, many program paths will go untested. This is the difference between black, grey and white. Black box testing, the internal working of an application need not be known. First of all, grey box, it should have only limited knowledge of internal working. White box, it should have full knowledge of internal working. It is also known as closed box testing and data driven testing or functional testing. It is known as translucent testing because tester has limited knowledge, so he can at least identify what is going on in the application. White box is clear box testing because the programmer himself does the white box testing. It is performed by end users and also tested by testers and developers. Normally performed by end users and also by testers and developers. Normally this is done by only testers and developers. End users do not do it. Testing is based on external application and internal behavior. Here testing is done on the basis of high level database diagrams and data flow diagrams. Here internal workings are fully known and the tester can design test data accordingly. Here it is exhaustive and least time consuming. It is partly time consuming and exhaustive. Here it is the most exhaustive and time consuming type of testing because the programmer tests each and every year. Not suited for algorithm testing. It is suited for algorithm testing and this is suited for algorithm testing. Okay, this can only be done by trial and error method. Data domain and internal boundaries can be tested if known here. Data domain and internal boundaries can be better tested in white box testing. Okay, so this is the difference between the three types of testing. There are different tools which are used currently. Quick Test Professional, Selenium, which is again used very widely here, IBM Rational Functional Tester, Silk Test, Test Complete, Testing Anywhere, WinRunner, Load Runner. If you go for any testing course, the WinRunner and Load Runner is taught you all. Visual Studio Test Professional and Vatir is again used as software testing tools. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any doubts, you can write out in the comments. Thank you.